The weather hasn't been pretty in Philadelphia, and neither have the LaSalle Spring Sports. Hello, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. Rowing and golf have kicked off their season, and we will get you up to date on the early struggles. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. March is coming to a close, and with it, the final rounds of the NCAA basketball tournament are upon us. Dana and I will break down our brackets and see what we are predicting the rest of the way.
And later, Kevin Cook joins us on desk to talk about what was supposed to be softball's first home series of the season.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top three.
Number 1, late basketball great Rasul Butler will be posthumously inducted into the Big Five Hall of Fame. Butler scored over 2,000 points in his career as an Explorer and ranks 4th in school's history in points. As a junior, he led the Big Five in points per game with 22. Butler then went on to play professionally for 13 seasons with 8 different franchises. He will solidify his place in Big Five history on April 16th at the Big Five season-ending and Hall of Fame banquet.
Number 2, Fabian Bergman and Jakub Bartoszewicz were announced as members of the 2018 Atlantic 10 All-Academic Team. To be nominated, swimmers must have a GPA of 3.0 for their entire academic career. The two swimmers were honored for outstanding performances in the pool and in the classroom.
And number 3, LaSalle University is in the midst of their annual Heritage Week to celebrate LaSallian pride. The university hosted its annual Day of Giving on March 20th and has raised nearly $500,000. The Day of Giving may be over, but you can still make a contribution to LaSalle through the end of the week. You can donate to the LaSalle Fund, any of the 3 schools, or LaSalle Athletics. To make a donation, visit give2.lasalle.edu.
Well, the first thing we want to talk about is, of course, Rasul.
Yes.
He was a great for LaSalle, scored 2,125 career points here, was a 3-time All-Big Five player, was the 53rd pick in the NBA draft, and was the last Explorer to be drafted.
Yeah.
So it's something, it's very sad, of course, that we lost him
so tragic.
so early, but a great step for the Big Five to be recognizing him so early on.
Yeah, definitely well earned. I'm really glad that they're doing that for him and his family.
Yeah, of course.
Also, we've not only been doing well in sports, but academically we've been getting many honors, and it's great to see that because at the end of the day, I think we kind of forget that our athletes are student athletes, and it's really nice to see them get honored on and off the field.
Right. I mean,
so yeah.
Yeah, you don't want players to be thinking about their sports and only their sports when they're in school.
Yeah.
There's so many college athletes, and not very many of them will go pro in whatever their sport is. So
Yeah.
it's always good to see student athletes being students first.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that wraps up our top 3. Let's see how our teams fared over the past 2 weeks. After losing 3 straight games to Farley Dickinson, Manhattan College, and Wagner, the Explorers were finally able to pick up a win against Sacred Heart University. Jackson Ray had a spectacular outing on the mound and picked up his first win of the season. The lefty struck out 5 and gave up 2 hits over 6 2/3 innings. First baseman Ben Faso had a strong day at the plate. The junior went 3 for 3 and gave his team the lead in the bottom of the 6th. Faso hit a single, which allowed Manny Garcia to score. The Explorers scored an insurance run in the 8th on a wild pitch. Brian Tago crossed home plate to give LaSalle a 2-0 lead. LaSalle was able to hold on to their lead and now sit at a 5-13 record.
After battling 4 different losing streaks early on in their season, the softball team found their momentum at the UMBC Dog Pound Invitational over the weekend. The women won 4 consecutive games against UMBC and St. Peter's, ending their weekend with a 15-1 victory over the Peacocks on Sunday. In the win, the offense exploded, recording 16 hits on the day. Emma Schweigert ended the game on a high note by dropping a 3-run homer in the 7th inning. Meanwhile, Riley Gerhardt pitched 4 scoreless innings and allowed just 1 hit and a walk while striking out 5. The team's current record stands at 7 wins and 12 losses.
The lacrosse team keeps building experience among their young roster despite going just 1-2 in the last 2 weeks. The Explorers took on Vanderbilt at home on March 8th in a heated battle on a frigid night. The game would not be decided in regulation as the teams were locked at 10 goals apiece before Vandy's Emily Matthewson netted the game winner. The game was an impressive test for the Explorers as the Commodores came into the matchup with the highest scoring offense in the nation and were receiving votes to be nationally ranked. Brittany Edwards was the standout for the Explorers as she netted 3 of the team's goals. The Explorers moved on to a tough defensive battle at Temple where they fell 8-4. Bridget Ruskey continued her great start to her freshman season as she found the back of the net 3 times. Finally, the Explorers picked up a win on the road at Manhattan where they dominated the Jaspers with a final score of 16-9. Edwards and Ruskey continued to impress as they each netted 4 goals, and Mickey Raymond and Rachel Seplow scored 3 goals apiece. Edwards and Ruskey are currently tied for third in scoring in the Atlantic 10 with 21 goals each.
The men's swimming and diving team wrapped up the CSCAA National Invite at Rutgers University on March 10th. Fabian Bergman won the 200 back, finishing with a time of 1 minute and 43 seconds. He was also part of the 400 free relay team that finished 4th, with Marcus Forsgren, Norman Gregory, and Jakob Bartoszewicz. Forsgren placed 5th in the 100 free with a time of 44.72 seconds, and Bartoszewicz placed 5th in the 200 fly with a time of 1 minute and 49 seconds. On the women's side, Olivia Di Stefano came in 10th place in the 50 free, and the junior clocked in with a time of 23.2 seconds.
The women's water polo team dropped 3 tough games this weekend to open up MAAC play. Beginning their 30-game excursion to Albany, New York, the Explorers took on 17th-ranked Wagner, who topped LaSalle by a whopping score of 21-2. The 2 lone goals from the blue and gold came from freshman Jillian DeLille and sophomore Ann Cho. Unfortunately, the team continued their sluggish performance against VMI, once again falling 14-2. Sophomore driver Caitlin Kubo led the team with 3 steals in the loss. To end the weekend, LaSalle took on another ranked team, number 23, Marist. Once again, the Explorers struggled to get on their offense going, losing 24-7. Freshman Jillian DeLille once again led the team in scoring with 4 of their 7 goals, finishing the weekend with 7 goals across 3 games.
The men's tennis team has gone 1-4 in the month of March with losses to Dayton, Wright State, Youngstown State, and Loyola, Maryland. Their one win came on March 13th in a conference match against St. Bonaventure and marks their first conference win since 2011. The team won 5-2 with victories in the singles matches coming from Francesco Mauri and Rogelio Gonzalez. Mauri also teamed up with Tomas Christian to take a win in the first spot doubles match with a tiebreak. Ironically, the women's tennis team also went 1-4 in the month of March. Their losses came against Dayton, Wright State, University of Akron, and Loyola, Maryland. Their win also came against St. Bonaventure, giving them their first conference victory since 2006. Senior Jade Smith, junior Brittany Poggi, and sophomore Allie Snyder earned victories in their singles matches. Snyder also teamed up with Tiffany Theophil to gain a win in the number 1 doubles position.
After 5 months of being stuck indoors, the men's golf team hit the links to start their spring season at the Cape Fear Intercollegiate. The Explorers ended their first day of competition in 11th place. Freshman Zafar Sikander played a standout 2 rounds, finishing with final scores of 75 and 77 respectively. The Explorers finished their day 2 match strong, improving upon the previous day and increasing to 10th on the leaderboard. 4 out of the 5 Explorers in the tournament improved their scores. This was especially true for senior Brandon Rail, who shot an impressive back 9 and finished at 3 over par 75. He ended up tying for 50th individually with a final score of 236. Sikander also ended the second day strong with a final score of 81, tying individually for 41st on the leaderboard. The women's team also started their spring season. They traveled to William & Mary Intercollegiate in Williamsburg, Virginia. Unfortunately, it was all struggles for the young team as they finished 15th out of 15 teams competing.
Rowing had a tough start to the spring season when they competed against Villanova and Drexel on the Schuylkill River Saturday. In the men's races, the varsity 8 fell behind early and could not catch up, finishing last by 11 seconds with a time of 6 minutes and 50 seconds. The second varsity 8 fared better with a time of 6 minutes and 46 seconds to place second in the race. The women's team struggled as well, falling in the varsity 8 to Drexel and Villanova by almost a full minute with a time of over 8.5 minutes. The varsity 4 did better, posting times of 8:11 and 8:33, taking first and second of the 2 boat races.
So one thing I really want to point out is this young lacrosse team that we have is playing really impressively.
Yeah.
I mean, they only went 1-2, but Vanderbilt obviously was a big test for them.
Yeah.
And Bridget Ruski is phenomenal.
She's been incredible.
She is a really, really solid player, especially in her freshman year. So
I mean, we talked about her every week.
it's every week.
She's been the big name.
Like I said earlier, she has 21 goals, and she's tied with one of her teammates for third in the conference in scoring. So, I mean, it's obviously an impressive thing for a freshman to be doing.
I mean, and the best part is she is a freshman, which means she's only going to get better. She's only going to get more collegiate experience. We have another 3 years with her after this, so it's really exciting.
Right, the experience is the big key with her.
Yeah.
Once she, can't even say once she learns the play of collegiate lacrosse, because
it's different,
right.
but you know.
She's that good right now that
Yeah.
I don't know how much more learning she needs to do, but she can only get better in
Yeah,
time.
exactly. And something else that I want to point out, my tennis team, our tennis team, so they didn't do too well in the month of March so far, but they did each win 1 game. And those games were against St. Bonaventures, both the men and the women. And I'd like to point out they were the first conference match wins for the men since 2011 and for the women since 2006. That's a long time.
That's
so
insane.
I think that is something to point out and to praise them for.
I was 9 years old the last time tennis won a game in the A10s. That is absolutely absurd.
I mean, I have to be proud of that because why not?
Yeah, well, that about wraps it up for recaps. When we come back, we'll break down the madness that is March. Stay tuned.
Hi, Eddie Dunn here with LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. Do you know that LaSalle TV reaches over 300,000 homes in the Philadelphia area? Probably, right? Did you also know there's actually 13 zodiac constellations and not 12? The 13th is called Ophiuchus. But we got rid of that one because it sounds dumb, and also 13 is an unlucky number. So that's why we have 12. Where'd you learn that? LaSalle TV.
Welcome back. Our Explorers may not have made the tournament this year, but that doesn't mean we couldn't have a little fun with our March Madness. As we enter the Sweet 16, we're giving you our picks and predictions for the end of the tournament.
Well, I think that it's safe to say that everybody's bracket is busted.
Everyone's bracket is
I don't think there's anybody left that is very confident with what they have.
No.
So I think what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at what each of us had first. So I'll go first. I had North Carolina as my champion. Obviously, North Carolina is eliminated, so that's not the greatest. I had them taking on Kansas in that game. They're still around, so that's not awful. And I had Purdue matching up against Kansas in the Final Four and Kentucky with North Carolina, both of whom are still around, but Purdue has lost their best player, and Kentucky is, they're young, so we'll see how they play out the rest of the way.
Well, Tegan, at least you had a little bit more hope for a little bit longer than I did, because let me tell you, my bracket was busted in the very first round when UMBC tragically beat Virginia. Now, like, it wasn't really tragic because it was kind of awesome, because it was the first time a 16th seed beat a #1 seed, but it was also pretty tragic for me. I turned on the game, I was flipping back and forth, and all of a sudden they were ahead 20 points, and my bracket dreams were crushed.
Yeah, I think.
So, well, I'll just lay out my Final Four. I had Virginia versus North Carolina, and then obviously I had Virginia winning that game to go in the championship, and then I had Villanova versus Kansas, and I had Kansas beating Nova, and then I had Virginia beating Kansas, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so looking at that bracket, like Virginia and Arizona pretty much messed up everybody's bracket. Well, I think when two teams that are almost consensus to come out of a bracket, I think people overlooked Cincinnati a little bit, even though they lost too. I think those two teams were the predominant teams to come out of that side of the bracket. So,
well, and something that is worth mentioning is that these aren't just upsets throughout the tournament.
Right.
Like, they're upsets, but they're blowouts. Like, these teams UMBC didn't just beat Virginia by, like, a couple points.
Yeah.
They killed them.
Yeah.
Virginia
did not know what hit them from the start of that game.
And that seems to be the theme. These lower seeds are coming and beating these higher seeds by, like, a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been the talk around college basketball this year, is there's not one dominant team.
Yeah.
And I think that was shown with Virginia losing. Like, Virginia was the #1 seed in the tournament. They were the #1 team in the nation, and down they go to UMBC.
And UMBC in their second round, for the majority of the game, they
held their own.
Hard.
Right.
They played really hard, and I thought many times during that game, I thought they were going to take it.
Right. They were right there for the majority of the game, like you said.
They played for their lives. So it's been really cool to see. I mean, as much as it hurts me because I had Virginia winning, it really was cool to see them make that hard of a run.
Right. And then, so another thing that we did is after the debacle that was the brackets from the first couple of rounds, we made a second try at it. So my second try, I've got a Final Four of Michigan versus Kentucky, and Duke versus Villanova. I have Villanova winning this time, as much as it pains me to say that. I wish I did not have to root for them, but I can't stand Duke far more. Michigan, I feel like, is a dark horse. I think that after that win against Houston, when you win in ways like that, you can always make a run.
You see, I kind of think the opposite.
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of feel like they barely held on to that. Now someone else is gonna.
It goes one of two ways normally, though. Like, normally, if you win a game like that, it's your national championship. You're done, or you go and win it all. It's a momentum to ride one way or the other.
I mean, with this March Madness, it is truly no one can predict.
No,
I feel
it's tough to predict.
It can go anyway. Yeah. So I also did a second choice bracket. My Final Four is Michigan versus Nevada, and Villanova versus Duke. I have Nevada beating Michigan and Nuke beating Nova, and then I have Duke taking the cake. I didn't want Nova.
I don't want Nova either. I'm not gonna hold back on that.
I mean, I know that we should probably be supporting other Philly teams, but I'm not going to. So I picked Duke. I mean, I don't like Duke either, truly, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So
Duke's been playing well.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our other producers also took a look at what their previous brackets were. Steve had Virginia over West Virginia originally, so he was in that same boat with you, where it wasn't great for him from the get-go.
He had Virginia over North Carolina.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's got 3 of his 4 teams gone already, so that's not the greatest either. But many brackets look like that so far. Steve's second bracket, he now has West Virginia winning his championship over Michigan, with Kansas and Nevada making the Final Four as well. And then do you want to do Helen's? Go ahead.
Yeah, so our other producer, Helen, she's doing the best out of
she
all of us.
She is by far doing the best.
And I think it's important to note that she was on a service trip when she picked hers, so she wasn't even around.
Steve did a little finagling on that bracket as well. Don't let her fool you.
And she's still doing better. So originally she had Villanova beating Duke and Virginia beating Michigan, and Villanova taking the cake. And then her second choice is Villanova against Duke and Michigan against Nevada, with Villanova winning still. So she didn't change that.
No. Why would you? If you're that
why
good,
would you?
If you're doing that well, there's no reason to really change it up very much.
Good job, Helen/Steve. We're
Well
very
done.
proud of you. All right, well, stick around because after the break, Kevin Cook will be on desk to break down some of the Explorer action to come this week. There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Kevin Cook for this week's Explorer Report.
Thank you, Dana. For this week's Explorer Report, we cover the women's softball team as they play their first conference games of the season. The Blue and Gold travel to Massachusetts to take on their A-10 rival, UMass, in a 3-game series. LaSalle is going in hot after winning their last 4 games to improve their record to 7-12. The Minute Women, on the other hand, are just above 500 with an 11-10 record. A big reason for that is the success of number 9, Jenna Koza. Koza is one of the hottest hitters in the nation with a .492 average, 25 ribbies, and 9 home runs. Other players the Explorers will have to watch out for are Casey Carboni, Aaron Stasevich, and Madison Gimple, who are all hitting over 300. For the Explorers to continue their Tarrant tear of late, they will need to limit their mistakes. The Blue and Gold have a solid .950 fielding percentage, and they cannot afford to give up any unearned runs against a lineup as deep as UMass's. The key to this game, however, will be the pitching. LaSalle's pitchers have a combined earned run average just under 4, and this will need to improve for the Blue and Gold to extend their win streak.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well done, Kevin.
So UMass, no matter what sport, is always a tough competitor for us. Tough conference match. So obviously, in the sport of softball, pitching is one of the most critical points. So let us know how the pitching needs to be in order for us to win any of these games.
As I was saying, our pitchers, they've been doing decent. They got an ERA about 3.6 right now. And on the bright side, when we get to the end of the games, we are pitching well at the end of the games. However, we need to limit ourselves or limit the amount of chances that these guys have in order to give ourselves a better chance to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it seems like their lineup's pretty stacked. So obviously, the pitchers are going
as far as UMass is good.
Right,
yeah,
that's
and with that being, I mean, they got 4 batters above 300, and one of them's above 400. I mean,
Right.
Koz is just unreal with that.
Yeah, I don't like seeing that. I don't like hearing that one of their batters is one of the hottest players in the country. It's not a great thing to hear.
It's not good at all.
So offensively for us, what are you seeing?
We just got out of a tournament where we played UMBC of all teams. But
that day.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we played them that day that they beat Virginia.
But anyways, we had better luck against UMBC.
Yes, we did.
Thankfully, and a big reason for that is because our hitters, our lineup got pretty deep against in the last tournament that we were in.
Right.
We had success down at the bottom of the order, which we weren't seeing in the beginning of the season, and that's why I'm hopeful going into the season is that the players batting in the bottom of the order are going to continue to get on base, to set up people in the top of the order like Emma Schweigert and Heim, who are both raking right now with 4 home runs each and 10 RBIs, and Emily Conway's another player up in the top of the order, who's also got a good batting average for us.
Yeah, it looks like she's playing pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we've got predictions for what's to come this week. I guess I'll take the lead. I'll start it off. I have UMass sweeping the Explorers 3-0 in the series.
I have a little bit more faith, as I always try to do. So I have UMass taking 2 and the Explorers taking 1.
I'm not going to lie. So I changed it. So this series was supposed to be at home for us.
Yes.
And if that was going to be the case, I had us winning 2 of them.
Right.
Okay.
However, we moved it, and
Back
of all
on the
places, it's going to UMass.
Yeah.
So we're going to change that around. We're going to give UMass a 2-1 series victory over us. And like I said, I mean, it's only because we got to travel there now. And
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, a home field advantage is a big key, especially in that sport. You know a little bit.
Especially for LaSalle athletics.
That's true. A little bit more different, like the symmetry of the ballpark. You get to know a little bit about the warning track or how far away you are from a wall. It's a lot of things that go into baseball or softball that a lot of people don't think about when they go on the road.
And again, I mean, like I was saying, I would have picked them to win the series if they were here. And because of how well that they were hitting down, I believe the tournament was down in Maryland, so how well they did down there, I'm expecting that they were going to do the same thing here, but now we got to go up to Massachusetts, long bus ride, so yeah. It'll be tough, but I think that they are going to squeak out another victory.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 games. They got 3 nice chances. I mean, UMass, like I said in the beginning, they've always been one of our toughest conference competitors, and I think it's just going to be absolutely huge if we can at least pull out 1.
Right.
And another thing to look out for too is the one game is 2 of the games are a doubleheader, so you know it's going to be, both teams are going to be tired, so you know you might be able to steal one if that is the case.
And that depth that you're talking about is something that really plays into to a doubleheader, really.
Exactly.
Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, which none of us can, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other area sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of The Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLine LTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Kevin and our SportsLine team, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.